mind of Bodhi and practical wisdom.
Welcome to our show. Today, we're going to dive deep into a very interesting audio recording the dialogue between a master and a disciple on the topic of Bodhi mind and practical wisdom. The recording covers many practical aspects of spiritual practice, so our mission today is to extract some key takeaways, especially on how to understand and practice wisdom, and how to avoid common pitfalls. Yes, clarifying these concepts is very important. Let's begin. The dialogue starts with a point that I find very thought-provoking. What is it? It says that even if a person is extremely smart, if they can't control their own afflictions, their accumulated merits might instantly turn negative. Yes, this is very direct and realistic. It's different from what we usually imagine. We tend to think being smart is always a good thing. Exactly. This brings up a crucial concept: dealing with afflictions is the absolute highest priority. The number one priority? Yes. The dialogue frames it as an obstacle on the path of practice that we can actually control. Controllable? Yes. If you let it go unchecked, no matter how great your fortune or how brilliant your mind, when that affliction acts up, it's very easy to create negative karma. And the bad consequences often come on suddenly and severely. That serious? Yes. Your reputation or wealth could be ruined in an instant. So, the key is truly to first master your own mind, to control your afflictions, and not just rely on talent or luck. That makes sense. Next, the dialogue mentions the four immeasurables: loving kindness, compassion, sympathetic joy, and equanimity. This seems very important, the entire practice, but are they the ultimate goal of the practice? This is where people often get confused. Here's a critical distinction. The master in the dialogue makes it very clear that the four immeasurables are the methods to achieve the goal, they are the specific actions. They're the methods? Yes. The true goal of spiritual practice is to save sentient beings. All actions of the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas are based on this principle. Therefore, the four immeasurables are a means to better save sentient beings, they are not the end goal themselves. This distinction is vital, or your direction will go astray. Speaking of the role of the spiritual friend on the path of practice, it's absolutely crucial. Right? But the dialogue mentions that even a high-level bodhisattva like a bodhisattva of equal enlightenment who is only one step away from Buddhahood still needs a spiritual friend? Yes, even at such a high level, a spiritual friend is needed. And the reason isn't just about transmitting knowledge. What else? It's more about observing the proper order and avoiding overstepping. Overstepping means doing things beyond one's current capacity. Yes, just like the dialogue mentions Maitreya Bodhisattva and Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva. Even these great bodhisattvas of such high status need to follow the guidance or approval of the Buddha when they preach or act. This represents respect for the Dharma lineage and also prevents developing a contemptuous mind toward the Dharma, which could otherwise affect one's own practice. This is a bit like an ancient prince. Even though he's the crown prince, he needs a very strict teacher to guide him to become a qualified successor. This analogy is very clear. So, without the guidance of a spiritual friend, it's really easy to stray or to develop an arrogant mind, thinking you're already great. The dialogue also has a powerful analogy that compares the Bodhi mind to a Vajra, a ritual object that symbolizes a thunderbolt, saying it can vanquish all demons and external paths. This sounds incredibly powerful. What does it actually mean? The Vajra here symbolizes a totalizing power, one that encapsulates all dharmas and upholds all phenomena. It represents the complete power and wisdom of the Dharma. This power comes from a thorough understanding of our own true nature. Why can it vanquish demons and external paths? Because they don't recognize their true nature. They lack the practices of the six perfections, like giving and keeping precepts. Yes, giving, keeping precepts, patience, diligence, meditation, and wisdom. They also lack that inner majestic power, so they can't overcome inner obstacles, such as the five aggregates, which are related to our mental and physical states. So, when you hold the Bodhi mind, it's like holding a Vajra in your hand. You can not only break through your own afflictions and delusions but also help others. Conversely, once you lose the Bodhi mind, you lose your most fundamental protection and source of power. This makes the Bodhi mind sound like the core of the core. Exactly. There's another interesting analogy, the elixir of eternal youth. It can grant you eternal life, health, and strength, but the price is giving up all worldly pleasures and entertainment. This choice sounds incredibly difficult. I guess many of us would hesitate. Exactly. This analogy goes straight to the heart of human nature. Most people would rather choose the temporary, fleeting sensory pleasures right in front of them than give up immediate temptations for the long-term, fundamental benefit, that elixir. This is attachment, right? Yes, it reflects our deep attachment to fleeting pleasures. The Bodhi mind is like this elixir. How so? It allows practitioners to persevere for a very, very long time without feeling weary or being tainted by external circumstances. Why can you be untiring and untainted? Because when you realize that our true nature is inherently complete, unborn, and non-perishing, you no longer need to seek anything externally. You don't have to cling to those dreamlike, illusory phenomena. Therefore, you won't get tired or be affected. This is a very profound concept. That brings up a question: since our true nature is originally pure and all phenomena are dreamlike and unattainable, why do we need to practice so diligently and follow so many rules? That's a great question. Many people have this doubt. Practice isn't about eliminating the phenomena we see and hear right now. It's not about deviating from or negating phenomena. Instead, it's about thoroughly understanding their illusory, karmic nature. It's like the words on a computer screen. They aren't solid, but they have their function and meaning. Our true nature, that fundamental awareness, is like a mirror. It has always been clean and has never been stained by the images reflected in it, which are our perceptions and awareness. When you see a mountain, true nature knows it's a mountain. When you hear water, it knows it's water. True nature itself is unchanging and pure. So what gets stained? What gets stained are the various labels, judgments, and emotional reactions we've learned and added on later our consciousness. It's our consciousness that gets stained? Yes. As for the rules of Buddhism, the precepts, you can think of them as traffic rules or an electrician's safety regulations. They are there to protect us, to keep us safely on the path of practice, and to avoid suffering and disaster. If you don't follow the rules, it's like running a red light or wiring something incorrectly. The consequences are severe. Moreover, many of the principles of Buddhism can be verified. How can they be verified? For example, you feel happy when you eat, right? Right? But if you overeat, it immediately becomes suffering. Right? Doesn't that prove that the happy label we've attached is an illusion? It also confirms that the principles of Buddhism are not just empty talk. This is a very subtle observation. Finally, the dialogue mentions the concept of non-retrogression, which means practice has reached a stable state and won't go back and forth anymore. How can one achieve this? It sounds very difficult. It is difficult. Non-retrogression means that you have an extremely thorough understanding of the principles of the Dharma, and that belief is very firmly established. You'll no longer waver between following the right path and wanting to revert to old ways. You know the goodness of the right path and you stick to it firmly. You know the harm of the wrong path and you completely abandon it. No more hesitation. Yes, this is progressing from that state of fluctuation, for example, wanting to keep precepts strictly for a while and then feeling it's too hard and wanting to indulge to a stable determination where you no longer waver. This is non-retrogression. Wow, I've learned a lot today. To summarize, through this master-disciple dialogue, we've explored several core points of spiritual practice. First, subduing afflictions is the foundational work that must be done first. Then, the Bodhi mind is the core driving force and also the weapon, like the Vajra and the elixir of eternal youth, the fundamental power. A spiritual friend is the indispensable guide who points the way. Finally, we need to realize that our true nature is inherently pure, while also following the rules of Buddhism, the precepts. Only then can we truly move away from suffering and toward enlightenment. That's a great summary. This dialogue also serves as a good reminder for us to reflect on how much of the happiness or suffering we identify in our lives might just be labels we've put on things ourselves. We are often led by incorrect ideas and long-standing habits. So, today you might want to think about what labels you've attached to your own experiences or feelings. Do these labels truly reflect the reality of things? This is perhaps something you can contemplate and observe more closely in the days to come.